my next installment in 4 Looks 1 palette. If you are new to these videos, welcome. And I have an entire playlist that I will link below of more than 20 videos that I've done with different palettes in my collection. What I do is show you 4 looks zoomed in and like this, obviously. And then at the end of the video, I will do a review on the palette, show you swatches and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are doing the Kat Von D Innerstellar palette. This showed up towards the end of holiday 2014. And this is a little bit different in the fact that just the packaging is a little bit shinier. And as I said, I will talk about it at the end, but I have heard that there's not as much product in this as there is in like the Monarch. At any rate, let's go ahead and get started. So today I used Nightcrawler, which is this black. I kind of went dramatic right off the bat, on the outer 2/3 of my lid. And I took this one, which is in Dios, this really pretty silver color. That one is on the inner 2/3 then of my lid. Beneath my lower lash line, I took this purple in 3 AM. And then I used this one right here, which is Killing Moon, in my crease and to transition out. And I did use this one right here, which is Gravitron. Yeah, these names. Gravitron in the brow bone area. And then the last thing I want to mention is I took this one right here, which is Orion, in my inner corner here, and to kind of just transition a little bit from that purple 3 AM color into the inner corner. So I will go ahead and zoom you in. Okay, so here's the look. All right, on the rest of my face, I got some new, from a subscriber, MUA blushes. So I used this one in Candy Floss. So it looks like this. Sorry, in case you're curious. And so I used that on my cheeks today. I did use a highlight as well. I used this Elizabeth Arden, and this was a limited edition from a couple years ago in Rose Illumination. I like to use that with pink blushes. And then on my inner waterline, I have the Marc Jacobs liner. Upper lash line is the Avon Super Shock. And for my lips today, I have MAC's lip liner in Dervish. Forgot what I pulled. And then as my lipstick, I have MAC Cream Cup. Today I used this shade right here, which I believe is pronounced Ican or Iacan. I'm not sure. And it's a really... I'm not sure if it's going to come off quite as much as you're looking at it there. In the swatches later it will, but it's kind of an iridescent-y lavender sort of shade. I used Vass in the crease. Then first on the outer 2/3, I used Lunacy, which is this shade right here, just to put down a different sort of color. And then I took a combination of Lunacy and Astrological right here into the crease. And I took Astrological beneath my lower lash line. And that is all really that there is to the look. I also used, and I will do this every day, this Gravitron as my brow bone highlight and just kind of down into the inner corner a little bit. So let me zoom you in. All right, here's the look. For blush today, I took a combination of 2 different MUA blushes since I'm playing with those. And this is the shade 3, and this is in shade 5. So I kind of took a little combination of those on my cheeks today. And then on my lips, it is colder than I'll get out and dry. So I have gone back to my, an oldie but a goodie. This is the Neutrogena Moisture Smooth Color Stick in Soft Raspberry, which looks like that. All right, today's look, I used this shade right here, which is Dark Star. Sorry, that one right there. I used that on the outer 1/3 and the inner 1/3. And then I used this shade right here, which is called Moonshine. It's this in the center of the lid. And I blended all of that out with this Killing Moon shade right here. And after I had blended that all out in the crease, then I added just a little bit more of the dark side shade right here, just to kind of connect the outer and the inner 1/3. If that makes any sense. And then I used the same, this is my brow bone highlight. And I think that is all I used for shadow. So I'll zoom you in. So here's the look. Very quickly, quickly, I want to mention that yesterday I forgot to mention the eyeliner that I used, and if you're curious, it was the Pixie eyeliner. The color is rubbed off, but it was kind of that, it's that plum purpley one, or not rubbed off, it's sharpened off. Okay, for liner today, what I did was I used the Marc Jacobs liner in Blacker, and then I did kind of take the black in here, which is Nightcrawler, and smudge that out a little bit on the lash line. But I used this for upper waterline, lower waterline, and upper lash line. So all of those things. For blush today, I used the MUA blush. Now I have two of these in the shade 6. They're completely different. So not sure why that is, but this is the number 6 that I've had for over a year or so, and that's what I used on my cheeks today. For lips today, I used MAC's lipstick in Amorous, which looks like that. It's a satin, in case you're curious. It's one of my favorites. And then over the top of that, I just wanted to add a little gloss. I used the IT Cosmetics CC and Lip Serum in Love. I'll just give you a quick shot of that. Looks like that. Okay, for my fourth look today, I kind of went with a little bit of a purple look. Not a little bit, it's a full-on purple look. I used the 3 AM shade. I used that all over my lid, but before I did that, I laid down just a little bit of a base, and I used the Lust from Urban Decay, the 24/7 liner. I just kind of put a little bit on my finger and smudged it out all over my eyelid. And then I used the same liner beneath my lower lash line and smudged that out as well. So then I used 3 AM all over the lid. I used kind of a combination of 3 AM and Orion in my crease to kind of transition out. And then on the very edge, I used just that Orion to kind of give just a little bit of a different effect on the edge of the crease. And then I took the same 3 AM beneath my lower lash line. I used Nightcrawler to just kind of deepen things up. So I used it on a smaller brush and just kind of, you know, you'll be able to see where I deepened it up just a little bit. And then, of course, I used Gravitron as my brow bone highlight. So I will zoom you in. So here's the look. The only other thing that I have on my eye that I didn't talk about before is that I have just a little bit of the Physicians Formula 2-in-1 Eye Booster just really close to the lash line. And I did take a little bit of the Marc Jacobs liner in Blacker on my upper waterline. And that is everything. For blush today, I have the Physicians Formula Nude Glow and Rose Glow, I believe is the name for that. And then on my lips today, I just wanted something really soft and pink. And yesterday I got in the mail the prototype or the sample of my Camp Cosmetics Lip Lava, and the name of this is Game On, and that is what I have on my lips today. So I don't have it in a form where I can kind of show you yet, but that is what I have on my lips today. So, all right, so let's have some swatches and then we'll talk about the palette just a little bit more. This is from left to right on the top. This is, I believe it's called ICAN. This is Vast and Gravitron. ICAN, Vast, and Gravitron. Killing Moon, Moonshine, 3 AM. So Killing Moon, Moonshine, and 3 AM. Orion, Dark Star, and Astrological. Orion, Dark Star, and Astrological. Lunacy, Dios, and Nightcrawler. So Lunacy, Dios, and Nightcrawler. Okay, so I got this palette on Sephora, and I believe that's the only place that it's available to my knowledge, and it is limited edition, and it sells for $46. The one thing that I want to mention, and Kirsten from It's Kirsten was the one that had told me this, and I looked it up, and she's right. There is less product in this than in the Monarch palette. I don't know why, but what's interesting is in doing my research, I went on Sephora's website to look below, and according to their website, in the Monarch palette, these are all the same amount, even though these are bigger here. They all say that they're 0.095 ounces of product in all of them, which is, I found interesting because of, you know, certainly the top pans could be not as deep as the lower pans. But then these ones, and I'm going to read it just so that I don't mess it up. It says that the top 3 are 0.08 ounces, and then down here, these are 0.04 ounces. So I find that really interesting, and it sells for the same price. So that's kind of a bummer. But at any rate, that's the info on that. I like how the packaging looks. It's nice and sturdy, just like the Monarch palette. I don't have the Chrysalis, so I can't compare it to that. Those colors don't appeal to me, which is why I've never gotten that one. But I like this palette. Now, some of these shades are still kind of with the powdery chalky that I just have kind of learned that you get, especially with the mattes with Kat Von D, but I don't mind that. I'm able to work with them. And I mean, if you don't look at this and think that this is a palette I would love, there are some awesome taupes in there and more warm taupes. And I have to tell you, I really liked the silver color. A lot of silver colors, when I try to wear them, will pull more blue. That one, I felt like it really stayed a true silver. So, and I like the kind of difference with the purple in there, but it's not that kind of violet purple. It's just a little bit more, almost an eggplanty purple that could work with a bunch of the different shades. So I like this palette. I think that I would suggest it. I think the quality is good. I really am kind of bummed out about the amount of product being less and for the same price as this one. I don't know why. I mean, it's not like I'm going through a palette anytime soon, but I kind of just feel like it's a little bit deceiving. So I don't know. You guys can make your own decision on that. The black in this is a very nice black. It's black enough to be used as a liner or to use, like as I did today, to deepen up this look. So just kind of wanted to give that a mention. Sometimes blacks and palettes aren't quite as nice, but this is a really nice palette. So that is so very quickly, I will just run down for you what I used on my face the rest of the video. I did use and finish up today the last of my Rouge Bunny Rouge Time Defying Foundation. So, but that's what I had on all 4 looks. If you are new to 4 Looks 1 Palette, I try to keep my base face the same, aside from my blush, throughout the whole look. Throughout the whole video. I used my MAC Pro Longwear Concealer for contour. I used my Camp Cosmetics blush in Monogamy, which looks like that. And then for bronzer, I've been using my Guerlain Terracotta 4 Seasons in Nude. And I think that is everything. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you very soon.